If you want to see California politics shaken up, well, I've got an idea for you, and I'm going to ask you for your help. That's all coming up. I'm Carl DeMaio, chairman of Reform California, and I think most common sense people, sane people in California, realize that our state is on the wrong track and that our state is in a complete state of a mess. We've got the highest cost of living, crime is soaring, homelessness is skyrocketing, our schools are failing. We have politicians who are corrupt. We have a media that lies and doesn't really cover these issues and explain why these problems are happening. They participate with the politicians in the gaslighting of the public. But enough Californians are smart enough to realize there's a problem, and a good number of them are fighting, and even greater number of them are fleeing the state. Millions of people migrating out of the state of California in the past several years. But I'm staying and fighting, and I'm urging you to do the same because I love California. And we are blessed by so many things in our state. We're only cursed by one big thing, our government. So if we're going to fight, we need to have a plan. And at Reform California, we've been fighting with a grassroots movement of citizen activists, grassroots donors, volunteers, using ballot measures initially to try to affect change. Of course, back in 2018, we did our gas tax repeal initiative. We also broke the California supermajority. The last time the supermajority was broken, Reform California led that fight by recalling State Senator Josh Newman and breaking the supermajority in the state Senate. But by most measure, the Republican Party of California has been completely ineffective. And so Reform California would like to take things to the next step. We started a voter guide in 2020 and expanded that voter guide distribution in 2022 to endorse candidates for office in as many seats as possible. And then we also started helping candidates by recruiting people to run for office and training them. All of that is in place, but we're still not moving the needle enough to turn our state around. And so recently, Reform California announced a pretty remarkable strategy. We've decided that we want to elect a slate of candidates into the state legislature and create something called the Reform California Caucus. And it's ambitious, but I don't think we need to win a majority, and I don't think it's possible necessarily to win a majority in this first election, but we'll get there eventually. But we need to have a committed group of reform-minded elected officials who are fierce, who are willing to fight, who are creative, and principled. They need to work together statewide. Now, let me go through some math, okay? Right now, there are 18 Republicans in the state assembly. There are 7 or 8 Republicans in the state Senate. The supermajority, more than 70%, about 70%, 72% of the seats are held by Democrats. So they have a even I would suggest a mega majority in the state capitol. So Republicans have been very ineffective. But I would take a small committed group of elected officials who are fierce in how they fight, and principled in their positions and effective in their communications. I would take a small group, committed group, over 10 more milquetoast members on the Republican side. So we're looking for quality, not quantity initially. And that's where this Reform California Caucus idea comes into play. The idea is to get 8 to 10, maybe 12 members out of the, what do we got? 26, 27 state senators and state assembly members between the two chambers that are Republican. But 8 to 10, maybe 12 committed fighters to be part of a Reform California Caucus, not the California Republican Caucus in the legislature, although these will likely be all Republicans, but a Reform California Caucus. And the goal would be to not settle, to not take scraps, to not beg the supermajority Democrats that if we play nice, and that's what the Republicans are doing, if we play nice, will you give us some scraps? That's what the current Republicans, with rare exception, are doing in Sacramento. And You're not going to change this state. You're not going to save this state by having go along, get along, weak-kneed, cowardly, and ineffective members of the legislature on the Republican side. It's just, we know where we're headed, more and more irrelevant position, more and more seats lost. And so the idea of this caucus would be a few things. Number one, all the members would agree to a reform agenda, a very simple reform agenda for California. And they would introduce the bills, and maybe it's a 10-point plan, maybe it's a 5-point plan. But the idea is that it would be issues that are 70% issues that even Democrat voters would agree with us on, or independent voters overwhelmingly. Those issues would become the reform agenda. We would also agree that we're just not going to provide votes for bad items. We're not going to go along and get along. We're not going to just walk off the floor. We're not going to vote in committee one way and then pretend to our constituents that we're voting a different way. Standing on principle and fighting for a populist, very popular agenda. Second, introducing legislation in a supermajority. We know that we're not going to pass the bills, but that's just putting the chess piece on the table. In order for us to really put pressure and move the needle, we've got to go outside of that legislature, outside of the building, and turn all of those members, the members of the Reform California Caucus, into regional leaders who have activists and grassroots volunteers and small dollar donors and media presence. And I'm not talking about going on the corrupt liberal media, going in the newspaper or going to CBS, ABC, or NBC. I'm talking about the new media. And this is something that people like Tucker Carlson have shown us, that, he can step down from a national cable channel and have a bigger platform. Joe Rogan has done something similar. And this is very effective. You're watching this video on either YouTube or one of our social media platforms. And we've been doing this for about a year. And our viewership is growing exponentially. And so we need a lot more elected officials to provide news and information and updates like what I do every day at 5:00. We post this show. By the way, that reminds me, please subscribe to this channel, smash that notification button, and please like this video so we can break through the algorithm on these social media platforms. Comment in the section below. That also helps. But we need to spread the word by sharing this podcast and sharing this channel. But I want to have elected officials do what I'm doing. And we're going to train them and teach them and mentor them and help them, because it's going to take a team. Not one person is going to save. It's going to take this caucus, this Reform California Caucus. Third, I want each of the caucus members to help us qualify initiatives for the ballot. My California Voter ID initiative, I'm going to need partners all around the state to collect signatures. We have to get 1 million signatures for California Voter ID. We have our Taxpayer Protection Initiative on the ballot in 2024 in November. We're going to need regional leaders to help us sell that idea to voters. We're going to need regional leaders to do town halls and rallies and deployments. In other words, let's get out in the streets. Power does not reside inside the legislature. The power is in the hands of the people, but the people don't know why these problems are happening. And so taking the show on the road, going digital, getting on these platforms, doing events in the district or regionally, activating volunteers, standing in front of stores, collecting signatures, going door to door, all of that can break through the liberal media, their bias. These Republicans in Sacramento say, well, there's nothing we can do. The liberal media is biased. The liberal media is dying and is being replaced by this. And why haven't you held a town hall? Why aren't you going door to door? Why aren't you in front of stores? Again, I blame Republicans for not putting up an effective fight. And that's what the Reform California Caucus is trying to correct, is create a mechanism of fighters regionally across the state. And I'm very excited about this because we do have a number of candidates who have already committed to run on this platform, and existing elected officials who've been hungry for a bigger fight. And so I'm asking you to help us out. Go to the website, reformcalifornia.org, and chip in a contribution of any amount. I'm running for one of the seats to be in the Reform Caucus, California State Assembly District 75 in San Diego County. But we have people that we want to support with our voter guides statewide. And of course, we're talking about a state legislative reform caucus. We can build local reform caucuses across the state in each county of school board members, water board members, city council members, county board members, all of these people committed to fundamentally shaking up the status quo of California politics. Again, I'm not waiting for the Republican Party to get its crap together. I don't think it will. They will once we create the movement. Then they'll acclimate and imitate, and that's fine. Whenever they can join us, they should join us. But it's up to us to save our state through these grassroots efforts. So go on to that website, reformcalifornia.org, chip in a contribution, sign up as a volunteer, and of course, share some of the stories that we have up on that site because we have a news platform up there as well. Let me just say, since I announced for State Assembly last week, in fact, it'll be a week tomorrow at 2. We've had an overwhelming amount of support from people all across California. The average contribution so far has been $63 to our website. Some people give $5, some people give $250. It all helps. It all gives us the war chest to fight. But I will tell you, the reactions to this Reform Caucus idea and my candidacy in particular, it's been, I guess, as expected. And let me share with you what we've heard. So on the one hand, you have people, real people, our activists, our supporters, our volunteer base that are excited. And you've got people saying, yeah, we need to change California politics. So those are real people who are taxpayers, not in the political class. But let me tell you, the political class on both sides of the aisle, the Republican establishment, and of course the Democrats and their labor union bosses who control them, they are fit to be tied. And you've got some of the Republicans in Sacramento who say, we don't want to have this happen. Why? Because they're okay going along and getting along. They don't want people to upset the apple cart because they're afraid of being called out by some colleagues. They're afraid that we're going to go up there and fight and show the public that this guy over here is a potted plant when it comes to his role in the legislature and his effectiveness. They don't want to be called out. They don't want to be embarrassed. I think they know they're doing a bad job. Some of them are actually so arrogant, they don't even know they're doing a bad job. I'm looking at you, Brian Jones. They don't know that they're failing miserably. And I think that they're a little jealous of people who are out there fighting and trying to do the right thing. So the establishment, not very happy. There are some people, though, who recognize that we're going to have to make major changes on the Republican side of the spectrum because this party is dead. It's on life support. It's in a coma. And we need to have radical transformation in order to become an effective opposition party, a voice for the voiceless, and start moving the needle and rebalancing the politics. But a lot of the establishment Republicans are not liking what we're proposing. And that's okay, because we expected it. The Democrats are terrified. They've already started talking about doing a dark money campaign to attack me in my race for the 75th Assembly District and others that we have on our slate. They're going to have more money than us. And of course, they've got the liberal media to do their dirty work. And that's why we're going to need you to stand with us. We don't need to match their money. We do need to have enough funding and volunteer support to at least get our message out for each of these candidates. And so I'm, again, asking you, please join us. I can't do this alone. I'm a complete volunteer on this. This is the worst job I'll probably ever hold in life, which is fine. Someone has to do it. This is not a promotion for me. This is a big time demotion. I had to give up my Southern California radio show to do this, and I'm fine doing that because someone has to step forward. And as I saw others come to me saying that they'd step forward with me as part of a slate to be part of the Reform California Caucus in the state legislature, in the belly of the beast, my friends, that was quite exciting. And I couldn't say no. One final point about this show. We're on the campaign trail until March 5th, which is the primary, and then the runoff in November. This show we will continue to do throughout the campaign, but when I'm sworn in, we're going to help others get similar shows in their regions. And, whether it's Inland Empire or Orange County or Central Valley or Sacramento, Northern California, we're going to have a variety of these shows feeding content and news in each of these regions. But I plan to do this show, Reform California, from inside the belly of the beast every day. So every afternoon, I'm going to sit down straight to camera, and I'm going to tell you what they're doing behind closed doors. And it's going to make a lot of people very uncomfortable. And that is going to be remarkable because we need that. It's long overdue. We're going to do what the liberal media refuses to do. We're going to show you exactly what's going on behind the scenes and make those folks, those lobbyists, those special interests, those politicians, we want to make them uncomfortable because you're watching. Again, if they're doing the right thing, they shouldn't be uncomfortable, right? But this show will be featuring committee hearing developments, bills that are introduced, what's happening on the floor, what the special interests are doing, what politicians are really trying to do, what's going on with our crazy governor. If he ever comes back to California while he's running for president, we absolutely are willing to speak truth to power and show you what's really going on. So help us get there. Help us build the Reform California Caucus by, again, chipping in a contribution. We want to show early strength by the end of the year with our fundraising reports. Go to reformcalifornia.org and help us out. Until next time, and sorry, my voice is giving out. I'm still dealing with the after effects of COVID. Until next time, Carl DeMaio, Chairman of Reform California and candidate for the 75th State Assembly seat. Help us break through the censorship of the liberal media. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and smash that notification button so you can stay up to date on all the developments in California news and politics. Also, please visit the website, reformcalifornia.org, for ongoing news coverage and to join one of our campaigns in the fight to take back our state. If you can, please sign up as a volunteer or chip in a contribution. This episode of Reform California with Carl DeMaio, paid for by Carl DeMaio for State Assembly 2024.